Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 15 of the Max Frequency Podcast. I'm your host, Max Robertson. I am here, not as always, but I am here with Logan Moore. Hi, Logan.
Hey, this is really throwing me off because you and I talked about with our other podcast how, I don't know if we need to talk about this really, but I'm going to be hosting that podcast in perpetuity now, and now I'm getting on this, and you're hosting this, and it's like messing up my brain with the conversation we had like a week ago. So,
but I still intro that show, so...
You will, yeah.
At least the beginning of it. But, it's that time of year again, that magical time in the summer when video game news comes out, and we have been doing E3 predictions, which I guess it's technically not that anymore, but it will always be E3 to me.
I was going to ask you that, let me just ask you that first off. Like, are you still as hyped for this time of year now that everything has kind of fallen apart, like officially? Maybe it'll come back next year, but probably not. I think all the publishers have seen that they can do this on their own now if they want to. So
to me it's just the time of year and the news, and it's wrapped under the identity of E3. And sure, that company has fallen apart, and that that conference itself has really vanished, especially over the last 3-4 years.
Yeah.
When you saw Sony stop going to E3, I think that was the big sign. Not that like Nintendo proved the directs, you can talk to your customers whenever you want. And then Sony, I think, took that to heart. And now Microsoft's probably the most traditional in this regard. They kind of do a Gamescom thing, a summer thing, and end of the year. And they sprinkle some stuff throughout.
But I think I still think that's a good format. Like, I think
I like it because I know when to expect it.
Yeah.
Every summer I know we're getting video game news and conferences.
Because now people are getting really weird with PlayStation and how PlayStation communicates things, which I think's warranted because we don't know what to really expect from them anymore. But, it's been like we're in April and May of this year, and people are freaking out about like, oh, God of War's not releasing this year. I don't think it's releasing this year. Oh my gosh. Like, people are like really starting to lose their marbles because Sony is not speaking on a routine basis about these things that people feel like they need to speak about. And I think if they just did have the regimented, we'll talk at E3 and we'll talk at the end of the year. PSX used to be a thing, but it's not been that. And even before the pandemic, it wasn't a thing. But they used to have those like tentpole events where they would talk about things. And I think that eased people's concerns because it was always just the idea like, oh, well, we'll hear about Spider-Man at E3 or we'll hear about God of War at this time. Now you've got everybody like running around like chickens with their heads cut off, freaking out that this game, that there's 7-8 months left in the year, and people are like, God of War's not going to release this year. Oh my gosh. It's like, we're 4 months into the year. Calm down. Like,
I think it almost seems like these the people that are so, I was going to say discombobulated, but that's not the right word. Like, they feel out of place because Sony's consistency is not the same as it has been for years, if not, decades.
I really feel like that shifted when Layden left, for sure. Like, Jimmy's really changed how they communicate.
Yes.
And I don't like it. Like, they feel more corporate now, which is the thing I don't like about PlayStation.
The PS4 changed them. Yeah. But it seems like the PlayStation fans are not Nintendo fans, because Nintendo's been like this for years. Will there be a direct in February? Who knows? Look at this. Nintendo still has not announced any sort of event in June. Totally operating off of assumption here.
Something's coming. The thing I think is always weird about, now we'll talk about Nintendo and talk about how their fans are weird. The thing I think that's bizarre about with them is that we could plan out all the, we could create very broad windows right now for when all the directs happen every year. There's usually an early portion of the year direct. There's the summer direct. There's one usually around like September, September area. And then they sprinkle the indie worlds in between that. So there's usually an indie world.
And then there's usually like a Pokemon direct in the fall.
Yeah, and then they have some other more specific directs like that as well. And then maybe sometimes there's another full-blown one like later in, like last December, I think they did a direct, and that was a little bit different. Usually there's like one wild card direct that comes in throughout the year.
You know there will be a Splatoon 3 direct in like August before that game comes out.
Like you can so I don't understand why people are always freaking out about when the directs are, because we've got about 10 years worth of data showing us when they're going to be.
You can literally go to the Nintendo Direct Wikipedia page and see when, like, you can just track the history of it.
Yeah, and it's a pretty normal cadence. So we haven't had a normal direct since February. Yeah, one's going to happen here in June or July or some point.
If you want clicks, just write about when you think the next direct will be.
Yeah.
People are ravenous for that stuff.
I have one other question for you before we get to... I'm sorry, I'm not trying to lead the conversation, but I do have a genuine question, though, because we're talking about how things are different now.
This is a conversation, Logan. This is a very loose episode. The only guide is E3 predictions.
So, how much do you think Jeff Keighley's Video Game-a-Palooza is actually going to grow and become a huge thing? Obviously, he claims that all of these things are part of his, which is not true.
I love it. I love this mentality of, if it happens in the summer,
if it happens throughout these artificial dates that I said, then it's part of our programming. No, Jeff, Xbox and Bethesda Showcase is not actually part of Gamer Fest just because you say it is. But okay. But as for his actual... His actual event, that he does
on a Thursday.
Do you think that's gonna? I guess specifically we can talk about it this year, and maybe we can talk about with our own predictions. How big do you think that's gonna be this year, and I guess moving into the future? Like, are you making any specific predictions today that I guess involve that showcase in particular?
Nope.
I am.
Okay, that's interesting. I think a lot of this... I think this is where the third parties are going to start to go more so, especially when Sony doesn't seem to be having too many traditional... Like, they don't have a big traditional press conference. Xbox does, which gives them an opportunity to go to these partners and be like, let us show your game off on our stage, which honestly helps Microsoft because they need more games to show.
Yeah.
And then, you know... I'm looking at the Summer Games Fest page now, and their partners range from 2K to Activision. Blizzard's in there, which is like Xbox anyway. There's PlayStation. Nintendo is notably missing. You see Netflix, Psyonix. Like, this is going to be the hodgepodge. Third parties are going to be here doing all sorts of stuff. Ubisoft will have a game. Warner Brothers will probably show a Harry Potter demo.
I mean, but you've got PlayStation there too, and you've got Ubisoft and Xbox, and
but there's Prime Gaming.
Nintendo's the
Netflix.
only big one I actively don't see.
Mm-hmm. Steam,
Tencent. We all love Tencent.
Who doesn't? The gaming market does. That's for sure. It's I think it will get bigger because there's no bigger stage like to go to.
It'll get bigger because Jeffrey will force it to get bigger. And that's just how this works, I guess.
And he knows how to put on a show.
He does a good job. I make fun of Jeff a lot, mainly because I just think he's a huge dork. But then again, so is a lot of everybody, I guess, who's involved with this industry tangentially, including myself.
We're all dorks.
Jeff's just a goofball. Again, I'm looking into Summer Game Fest thing now, and he has now added the next week's State of Play to the list of Summer Game Fest programming.
I saw that tweet today and was like,
again,
of course it's part of Summer Games Fest.
Like, that's why I think he's a goofball, is because he's come up with this. Like, I think the Game Awards is a great event. I love that event. I think he does a fantastic job.
We get together every year for the Game Awards.
Yeah, I have liked that event for a really long time, and I think he does a fantastic job with that. And I really have nothing bad to say about the Game Awards, even though I know people hate the ads in it and stuff, and they don't even announce the awards.
Though, because you were in an ad with the shit.
It's true. It's true. I wasn't in one of those ads. I think he does a good job. I think he does as good of a job as you can do with something like that. So I really respect what he does with the Game Awards. Game Fest, I just think, is goofy because, I mean, he's got the central showcase, which he's now put together the past couple of years. That's fine. But this is year 3 of it. So this can still evolve. First year, though, he was like, it's just a whole summer. Anything that happens throughout the summer is tied to Game Fest. It's going to last 3 months, everybody. And it was literally from
exhausting.
like May to August is like it just stretched. And any single announcement that happened, he claimed was part of it.
Look at this, though. You go to the Summer Games Fest website, upcoming events, state of play. It is literally on the Summer Games Fest website as a part of their upcoming events. Summer Games Fest on the 9th.
And that's what's off-putting to me about it. If he just said Summer Game Fest is his one central showcase thing and just pitched it as that, I would be 10 times more okay with it. But it's because he... But I guess what I'm going to guess what his frame of mind is with this is that he's doing the same thing that E3 did. E3 never claimed that any of the press conferences were part of it. They were just, those companies just decided to do it in proximity. Yeah, they just did it in proximity to the event to show people new things and then show off what would then be at the actual event. But that makes sense because you're having a trade show where you're going to show off video games. So you got to highlight what video games are going to be at the trade show. So, I mean, that makes sense. This, like, and I know Jeff is doing some sort of a in-person event this year, I believe. But yeah, I it's just, I don't know. I do think this will get bigger though, because I think there is eyes on this, and that's all that matters. If you can prove to publishers that you have eyes on your product, which he does, and he does a good job of hyping them up, then people will start to come to this, which is why I have some specific.
Okay.
Or maybe not some specific. I don't know. We'll see.
But you're at least referencing the event. I'm not.
Yeah, I might talk about the event a couple times.
I do. One last thing about Summer Games Fest. Why is it at 2 p.m. on a Thursday? Like, that is, Jeff, that is not the time for an event.
Yeah, that's pretty.
If you want your audience to go to IMAX movie theaters or to watch and engage, you don't do it at 2 p.m. on a Thursday.
I mean, I guess it could be argued that Tuesday morning for a Nintendo Direct was always just as bad, too, as it was with the Monday with the PlayStation and Xbox. Like a Monday all day. I think we were just conditioned to be used to, like, all day Monday is Xbox, Ubisoft, PlayStation.
But to look at now Xbox does it. For the past few years, Xbox has done it on the weekend before now. Like,
when we were younger, though, it was that Monday. It was like the marathon day. It was like Xbox in the morning, then Ubisoft and then EA.
And Square, and then PlayStation ended.
PlayStation ended at the night. Yeah, that was great.
All I'm saying is,
I miss that so much.
I would take the day off and just watch it all day. Yes. Man, what a time! And now we just have it like scattered.
I would watch it on cable television rather than
Spike TV. So, like I said, kind of at the top, we do this. We've been doing this for what now? When did we start Millennial Gaming Speak? 2015?
16, I believe, or
16?
15. It was the way I remember that is it was whatever year Kojima got kicked out of Konami is the year we did it, because I remember
whenever Metal Gear Solid 5 came out.
I think it was 2015 actually. Yeah.
Okay, so we've been doing this for about 7 years now. We do this every year, and last year was no different. You were on episode 9. My sweet, sweet baby Nintendo was what I called that episode. So we can go back and, link to that if you want to hear what we thought last year. But I actually went back, grabbed our predictions out of the show notes. We did not do so hot.
No.
Really, instead of listing everything we got wrong, it's better to just say
you went 0 for 5 on PlayStation. He went 1 for 5 on Xbox.
Yep.
I did better than you, didn't I? Yeah.
You did, because you got 2 half points for Nintendo. I only got a half point for Nintendo. So basically, Logan, your one PlayStation prediction that you got right was Spider-Man 2 is revealed and Black Suit Spidey confirmed.
Kind of was. They showed the logo. It was a white spider on a black background. That conveys that idea.
But Spider-Man 2 was revealed, and we haven't heard a peep from it since.
Man, that game's so good.
We might hear a peep this summer at some point, probably in September.
That game would be that would be really cool if you do get Black Suit Spidey in that game, and then there's like a boss battle with Miles. That would be pretty dope. That would be sick.
Possibilities. It could be one of those fights where you play both sides. Who knows? Then I
think you should play as Peter beating the crap out of Miles, because that would make you feel like way more conflicted as the player. If it was reversed and you were Miles, like, no, I'll try to save you, Peter. I think it'd
But what if you plot twist, Logan? What if for half of the game you played as Peter, and then when you're beating up Miles, you switch and you start playing as Miles? What if you did that?
You could kill Miles' mom.
Whoa. All right, let's calm down.
No, the reason I'm invoking this is because in the comics, Miles' mom dies because of Venom. So Venom basically kills his mom in the comics.
Spicy.
So yeah, they did a swap in the other game though, where his dad dies instead.
I got absolutely nothing for PlayStation. You, for Xbox, you got very close. You got a Psychonauts 2 release date. You said August 20th. Turned out to be August 25th.
Yeah.
That's so close. And then, let's see. I said Starfield only gets a trailer and no gameplay.
25th? What a weird date. That was a Wednesday.
Come on.
Wednesday
what are you doing over
release?
there, Double Fine? And then, let's see. Nintendo, we both said Breath of the Wild sequel would be shown off. And we both said no date. But they did give a date, which has since been delayed. We both knew it would be delayed. We did know that. We were very confident about that.
You said Mario Kart 9 for holiday 2021.
Not, honestly, I honestly didn't expect DLC.
And now we're doing DLC for 8. That's really funny.
I didn't expect that, but if you really think about it, it is Mario Kart 9. They're giving fresh tracks, and it's the same research. Anyway. It's essentially that.
They'll do a proper 9 after they're done milking this game for all it's worth.
Mm-hmm. Can you believe it's been a decade of Mario Kart?
It's like that. I mean, people talk about GTA a lot as being milked, but Mario Kart 8 is
GTA
right.
makes more money.
I mean, yeah, but Mario Kart 8 is right up there.
Mm-hmm. And then you also correctly predicted a new Metroid game being announced.
I think that
I just was so hurt. I couldn't believe it.
I think that had.
I directly countered you with new Metroid game does not make an appearance.
You prepared yourself in advance.
Yeah, heartache.
So we did 5 predictions last year, and we're only doing 3 this year. We decided, right?
No, 5 and 5. 5.
Well, okay, I've got enough then. I think. I thought we said 3 the other night when we were talking in your car.
No, 5. Always
right.
5. The big 3, though. I said probably the big 3.
Maybe
where it came from.
That may be. Okay, well,
so
I might have to jot down a few others here on the fly, but that's okay. I've got like 13 or 14 total.
You'll be fine.
So I'm fine. Yeah.
While you jot those down, for a little bit of context, what is today? The 27th of May is the day we're recording this. Today, Sony announced a state of play for June 2nd, third-party stuff, and PSVR 2 games. So I don't think that's all of their summer stuff. I imagine another September event. We'll see. And then Nintendo doesn't even have a date yet for any sort of event. So this is just to get it on the record before the Summer Madness starts and leaks and things like that. That's all this is. 5 predictions for the big 3, PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo. Ideally, we're not overlapping, so I've got enough overflow to counter.
How straightforward are yours? Because the one thing I tried to do this year, I will say, is add a lot of qualifiers to mine. So there's
I did
1A, 1B, and then 1C to eat some of these predictions. There's 3 parts.
I've learned my lesson, at least in the trying to win this prediction game, with the mentality of what I say becomes true. I've definitely stripped qualifiers back, because sometimes I get so close and so far because I have one qualifier that screws me over. So mine are a bit more direct.
Okay.
But I do have some spicy ones. They're just simple, but they're spicy. So let's start with Xbox, because they've got a show, they've got a date and everything. It's June 12th, 1 o'clock. I think that's a Sunday, if I remember correctly. Yes, it is a Sunday because the 5th is a Sunday. So 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time on June 12th, Xbox and Bethesda Games Showcase. I guess because the Bethesda name still has cachet, rightfully so. They still say that, even though they own them. I don't know. Anyway, Logan, what is your first prediction for Xbox and Bethesda?
So I'm going to go ahead and start with Starfield, because I feel like we both might have something to say about this. And so this is where I'm getting in with the qualifiers. So this is a 3-phase prediction.
Oh my gosh.
Part 1, a new Starfield trailer will appear at Summer Games Fest. Just a new trailer in general. That is where they will confirm that gameplay will be revealed the following Sunday at the Xbox event. At that event, they will show roughly 20 minutes of gameplay in total of Starfield. And they will not announce a new date. It'll just be the broad window.
Ooh.
So 3 phases. New trailer at Summer Games Fest. Approximately 20 minutes of gameplay at the Xbox event. And they're not going to commit to any more dates until they are 1,000% certain.
Yeah.
So.
And you, sir, were saying they were 1,000% certain when they said 11/11/22.
I think what happened with that, honestly, or maybe not what happened. I think that game getting delayed is a byproduct of them being owned by Xbox now. I think if they were still independent Bethesda, they push that game out this year 1,000%.
You think Phil went in there and said, we need this game to be 100% locked?
I think I'm going to guess they had some obviously like candid conversations behind the scenes. And they were like, yeah, we could get it out this year, but it's not going to be perfect, and blah, 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 blah. And he's like, okay, well, then just push it. Because I think they have really started to see... I mean, Halo launching in the state that it launched, Cyberpunk launching in the state that it launched. Like, I think now more than ever, people are getting fed up with these, like half releases, honestly.
Games coming out in a broken state and being fixed later.
Yeah, and I'm gonna obviously we don't know what Starfield is right now, or how it looks, or how it's playing internally, or anything like that. So it's hard to speak about what current state it might be in. But yeah, I think the game was probably just taking more time, take more time to get it away from being the janky Bethesda day one game that a lot of their releases are. And I think some of that jank, a lot of people talk about this, myself included. I think there is a sort of like charm in their games being a little janky, but it's like, but you don't want bugs that are problematic or like that are game breaking or anything like that. But if a giant smashes you in Skyrim and you soar 10,000 feet into the sky as your body flails around lifelessly, like that's funny. And you can keep that in. But yeah. Yeah, that's my Starfield prediction. I don't know if you have one.
I, too, had a Starfield prediction, but I'm not... This won't count as it, just to play off of you. I went a little bit more comedic with it, which was just Starfield gets a blowout gameplay. Todd Howard, quote, it just works, and quote, works demo. Like, he's just going to talk about how
that would be great if
works.
he says that. I would like that.
Yeah, who knows? So, I do think gameplay will be shown, but that was the extent of it, so... My first Xbox prediction. I don't know if this is left field or not, because it's not an Xbox game. But I think that the Avatar game is shown off on Xbox's stage. I think Ubisoft and Xbox are going to show that off.
Okay. That's a good one. That's a big... If that comes out this year, that's a really big game. That's a very, very big game.
Isn't it scheduled for this year?
Yeah, it is.
And the movie's this year, which I think is part of why it's scheduled for this year. Yeah. So
that's that's quietly a very big game. Because I think it's from I want to say the Division people are making that. It's a large open world Ubisoft game in the Avatar world. It's by Massive, I believe. Massive Entertainment.
Snowdrop engine.
Massive Entertainment, I think, is the Division people. So
yeah.
But yeah.
Massive Entertainment, Snowdrop. Games using Snowdrop. The Division. Mario and Rabbids Kingdom Battle. That uses Snowdrop. South Park. Starlink. Wow, okay. Then Sparks of Hope, Avatar.
I mean, it's like one of their main engines. Games. I think they're just...
Yeah.
This is the first time
I know the Splinter Cell remake is in it. The Star Wars game is in it.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, Snowdrop is their engine. But Avatar is definitely a part of that. It's called Avatar Frontiers of Pandora. And it is set to launch in 2022. So, yeah, I think that shows up on Xbox's stage. I think it gives Xbox a little bit of that Disney thunder. Knowing that Sony typically, like Sony has Spider-Man and Wolverine. And I think Guardians of the Galaxy was shown off on PlayStation stuff primarily. Like that was the marketing partner for that, I think. Am I wrong?
I can't remember. I don't know if that game had a really big marketing partner, if I'm being honest.
Probably not. But, you know, Disney and Sony have kind of been cozy for a while. I think this just gives Xbox some of that panache. So, what is your second Xbox prediction?
So today, the day we're recording this at least, so by the time this is in your ears, you know that this is a thing, but Star Wars Jedi Survivor just got announced, and all they announced it with was just a teaser trailer. I think because EA's not doing EA Play, I think they're going to show off gameplay for this at Xbox's show. Because this game, based on all the reports and even based on EA's like fiscal year outlooks or whatever, it seems obvious that this game is coming out between probably like March next year is what seems most likely, either February or March, because Dead Space is January, I think. So this one is probably February or March. So we're less than a year out from this game, so they got to start showing gameplay. And I think this is where they do that. So I think we will very quickly see gameplay from Jedi Survivor.
I would think Jedi Survivor would be at a Sony showcase because it seems the Star Wars license is favored on the Sony side.
Pretty sure they teamed up with Xbox for marketing on the first game, is why I say this.
Okay. I'm thinking of like Knights of the Old Republic, and
I think EA partners more with Xbox anyway. For their sports games, I know they do a lot of times.
Generally, yeah. I'm not.
Battlefield was a marketing thing with. I know like Battlefront and stuff like that used to be more tied to PlayStation, but yeah.
Okay. I like it. I'm just trying to pick like which one I would do next. And I feel like this is something you're going to say, so I'm going to take it. A Banjo-Kazooie game is announced.
That's not one I wrote down this year.
Okay.
I'll say that in advance.
I think Xbox Game Pass is all about reaching as many people as possible, the widest audience, and the most access to the Xbox ecosystem and games and whatever games they can throw up there. And I think having a a first-party mascot platformer is the key. Banjo and Smash was great. Sure, that was a few years ago. I don't know. I just feel like it's time, but it's always been time. So, and I also feel like because we decided to do chapter select on Banjo, now that means a new Banjo game will be announced. So I think we get it. And again, it's just another one of those promised announcements from Xbox. It's not coming out soon. It's just, we're doing it. Just like the other games they have in their pipeline. So that's my at least 2 cents on that one. What do you got for number 3?
I'll do this one. I think the biggest game that Xbox, maybe not the biggest, but
bigger than Starfield?
Not bigger than Starfield. Amongst hardcore fans, I think Fable is the thing that people are wanting to see the most. And I think we finally see that show back up. And I'll go as far as to say that I think we see gameplay footage. Not a lot of it, but I think we do see a trailer that shows off this world and shows off how this is going to be different, and I think they show off some snippets of gameplay in that. I don't think they're going to do like an extended gameplay demo or anything like that, but I do think we see a trailer that is a mix of showing off what the story, basically showing off a lot of the general ideas of what this reboot is going to look like. Because people, I mean, it's going on 2 years since that was announced.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's one of the games that people are really the most excited about in Xbox's upcoming catalog.
And it's one of their best studios is also making the game.
Yeah, that too. I think it's really interesting that they put the Forza Horizon team on that to make a fantasy RPG. So yeah, I think it's time for us to finally see that game. In a decent manner. I don't know if they'll commit to any sort of release windows or anything like that just yet. I won't go that far, but I do think we finally start to get a better idea of what this is, other than just a 45-second teaser trailer that shows the logo and pretty much nothing else. So yeah.
Okay, I like it. I like the vibe. My third prediction: a Game Pass streaming stick device is officially revealed.
Okay,
this has been rumored for years. I think
there was literally a report the day we're recording this. There was a new report about this literally yesterday. Did you see that?
The Keystone, I think.
Yeah. I think that's what
I saw that. I think now's the time. I think Keystone gets its name, like product revealed. This is like the piece in the streaming Game Pass puzzle that is missing at the moment. Stadia uses a Chromecast for it. I'm actually not sure what Luna uses for Amazon. I guess a Fire Stick, probably. But this is the last piece, and I think what's super fascinating and potentially big for Microsoft with one of these devices is you pair it with an Xbox controller, make it $150. So how much is an Xbox controller? $70? $60, $70?
I think so.
Something like that. And then the streaming stick with that, $150. Maybe even you eat the cost and it's $100. Now you've got 3 tiers of access to the Xbox library. And it's $500, $300, and $150. Now you can take it by storm. They'll count that as console sales or something, and it gets more people subscribing to Game Pass, bolstering those numbers. Does this launch in tandem with an Xbox app that just works on your TVs? Probably not in tandem, but we know that xCloud, like game streaming to your Xbox Ones, is coming for Game Pass, where you'll be able to just stream Series X games to your One X or your Series or your One X or your One S. You could even stream it to the Xbox One, so that app may launch alongside it. But I think the streaming stick shows its face and gets ready for a holiday launch would be realistic. Get those little streaming sticks under the Christmas tree in the stockings. Get people subscribing.
Okay. I think that makes sense. Yeah, that feels like it's bound to happen at some point. Okay, I've got one that's really broad, and I've got one that's more specific, but it's also... Yeah, which one do you want first? The specific one, or do you want me to save the broad one for last?
Do broad now. Save the specificity for your fifth one.
But I'm scared you'll take it.
Well, if you want to be tactical, then be tactical. But
I'll do the specific one now, so you don't steal it. But also, I don't know if you'll steal it because technically I'm recycling it. This is the only one I'm going to recycle, and I'm sorry. And I'm not
recycle away.
My thing I'm recycling is Wolfenstein 3. I think has to be shown at this point. I think it's time. I don't know what Machine Games has been doing for the past couple of years. They've been very quiet. I mean, we know they're doing the Indiana Jones game, but that thing is they're not even in production on that yet, I'm gonna guess. They probably signed that deal and made that teaser trailer, and then they're like, okay, cool, now what is this game? So that won't be out until probably 2024 or 5, I would guess. So in the interim, what have they been doing? Probably Wolfenstein 3. Why? Because they've already said they're going to make this game. This is just something that they've already said they're going to do. People at the studio have said it. And Pete Hines, kind of the pseudo face of Bethesda, has said, yeah, we'll make this game at some point. Like, it's coming. It has to be coming. I think it'll get shown off in a trailer. I think we see it next year. I think they just broadly commit to next year, and that'll be about it for it. But yeah, that's where I'm at.
All right. I will play off of that. I think the Indiana Jones game is shown, and let me tell you why. Because that movie is coming out next year.
Dude, that's too fast of a turnaround, I think.
I think it. I don't mean the game is coming out next year. I think they show it off though.
Well, wouldn't that make more sense to show next year? Because that movie's out in June of next year, right?
I don't know when it's out next year. I just know it's out next year. I don't know.
Your mute filters were too strong for Star Wars Celebration, is what I'm hearing. Because I'm pretty sure they announced this yesterday.
No, I don't have any Indiana Jones like stuff. I saw the poster or picture or whatever.
I know, but they announced this at Star Wars Celebration, is what I'm saying. So anything that would have been announced at Celebration. Yeah.
I don't even have that muted. I think the only Star Wars things I have muted is like Obi-Wan and then the word Star Wars. So, which probably was enough. Yeah. But I'll roll with it. I think the Indiana game is shown off, 30th. Which I think is actually me reusing a prediction from last year. So maybe this is my reuse. Yeah. Last year I said Indiana Jones gameplay. Now I've tamed it down to just the Indiana Jones game is shown. Gee whiz. Talk about an unintentional tongue twister.
There is an Indiana Jones prediction you could make that would involve something happening very soon. I don't know if you know what this is.
He appears in Fortnite?
Yes,
I don't know.
Yes, that's the 1000% it. Indiana Jones is coming to Fortnite. That's a thing that leaked the other day. So
well, that's not. Oh my gosh!
Yeah, I think the big star additions of the next season of Fortnite are going to be Darth Vader and Indiana Jones. Those are the two big ones they're adding.
Okay,
that doesn't make you want to play Fortnite.
If Uncharted being in Fortnite couldn't get me in there, I don't know what will.
But you can run around in a squad with Nathan Drake and Master Chief and Indiana Jones and Qui-Gon Jinn. Qui-Gon Jinn's not really in it, but
that'd be great though.
Okay, Indiana Jones. I'll say I guess my response to that. So the Indiana Jones movie releases next June. I agree that next year I think we see it. So if you want me to jot down this one prediction for next year,
your 2023
next June prediction. We see it, and that'll be the corporate synergy lining up perfectly. Because by the time they hold their press conference next year, they'll be 2 weeks out from a new Indiana Jones movie releasing. And so then at that point, I think they will show something. But I don't think we do now. I just think it's too early. That announcement totally came across as something like, "Hey, we've just shaken hands and agreed to make this game, and we put together this little teaser, and now we're going to go make the game, and please come work for us if that's something you're interested in." So anyway, all right, my last one. Again, this is very broad, but I'm going to... I think the past couple of years, the thing with these Xbox events is they have just been announcing games left and right, and they're not showing any of them off. And I think they will show them off more extensively this year. Like, I already predicted that we'll see Fable in a new way. I think we might see Perfect Dark or something like that too. This is not a prediction necessarily, but I think like Perfect Dark we could finally see more of. Maybe that Avowed game we see something of. Despite there being already a lot of games that we need to see, I'm going to very broadly predict that they announce 3 new first-party games as well. Just 3 totally new first-party games as well, because the main reason I'm predicting this is because Xbox has studios out the wazoo at this point. And there are a lot of studios that we don't know what they're doing still. And And again, this kind of ties in with Wolf. Like if Wolf 3 is announced, that's one game right there.
Sure.
So I think they've still just got a lot of studios doing a lot of different things that we aren't really aware of. And
I hope.
And yeah, so I am broadly saying we see 3 new Xbox games announced. Fingers crossed that one of them is Wolfenstein and one of them is Banjo-Kazooie. And that the third one can be whatever.
Sure. I have a couple of selfish predictions, which is a dangerous game to play in the prediction world, because usually when you want something and you're selfish about it, it never comes true. I think the logical choice would be almost what you said, like Perfect Dark.
Yeah.
I think that's practically a guarantee to see that game. But I think I'm going to go with my heart and say that The Last Night finally reemerges.
Okay.
Do you remember that game?
Yeah, I do.
I think that game...
That would make me hype.
I think that game comes back to the Xbox stage. We see it, and it's...
I will say, The Last Night, in my mind, I think about this game sometimes. I'm hoping it's not going to end up being like the next... like Below or something like that, like another indie game that we were like very hyped about for a very, very long period of time, and when it finally like showed up and came out, everybody was just kind of like, yeah, okay. Like, I don't know. I think sometimes these indie games get like way too much like anticipation and hype built up around them, and then they can't deliver, especially from studios that we have not seen anything from, like something like maybe you'll mention this later, I'm not planning on it, but like Silk Song, I think is something that's the hype around that is warranted, because we know that studio can put out good games.
We know what Team Cherry can produce, and Hollow Knight is one of the best.
The people making The Last Night, I don't know if they've ever made anything super notable. And so we're just really sold on this game because of the aesthetic, and we have no idea if the game itself will actually be any good. So this is internally what I've been trying to tell myself more about that game. Like, I really hope we do see it come back at some point, but I'm trying to like temper my expectations greatly if we do.
Interesting possible development. So, okay, it was revealed at E3 2017, so it's been 5 years. But Steam lists the publisher as Raw Fury.
Yeah, Raw Fury. Yeah, they publish
and they
a lot
are
of
one of the
stuff.
Partners for the Summer Games Fest.
They are, yeah. But they publish a lot of stuff, dude. They really do.
Sure. But I didn't know that. But, oh, look. December 3rd, 2021. The last night to make a comeback in 22, says developer. So, yeah, let's go. Come on. Last night at the Xbox stage once again, hopefully. That's my fifth and final prediction. And with that's Xbox and Bethesda, technically, even though they're owned by Xbox. I want to jump to PlayStation next. I don't know if I'm just a traditionalist, but Nintendo's got to go last. Always in my brain, in my heart. And who knows, maybe they're technically right now they are last, because Sony's at least first event of the summer is in 4 days, and 5 or 4 days, and then Xbox on the 12th. So let's start with PlayStation here. Logan, your first PlayStation prediction.
All right, let's just get another one right off the table here.
Look at this man.
I think God of War Ragnarok gets a release date before June 2022 comes to an end, and I think it's out in September.
Oh, this man's putting a timeline on 2 parts of this prediction. Do you think the event Tuesday is where we get the date?
I don't know. I think they would be wise to, because, I mean, obviously the caveat with all of this is that the game has to like be near completion, but I really think it is. Like, again, like a lot of people keep thinking that this game is getting pushed, and I am in the complete opposite camp. I think it is like they've been so vocal that it's coming out this year, and you and I have talked. We haven't talked about this in the confines of a podcast. But I don't think people remember what the timeline was like with the last God of War game that came out.
Exactly.
They were super quiet leading up to like 3 months before launch. And then they were like, okay, we have a date. Now we will show you more gameplay. Again, the first thing they showed of it was that initial gameplay demo. So that's the big difference here, is that was the big blowout for the original game. But they had to do that because it was a reboot and they were changing everything. And they had to convey that up front, I think. So like,
absolutely.
Now, though, we know what this game... The reason people are so looking forward to this is because we know what it is, and we're just excited about what it is. So you don't need to show that much of it. It's going to be the sequel to literally the best-selling PlayStation game ever created.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need to show that much. People will sprint out to buy this whenever you release it. So I really don't think they have to do a lot of marketing on it. I really don't think they have to say a lot. They just have to announce the date, show a trailer, show some gameplay, maybe do some press previews, and that's it. And you can do that in a 3 or 4 month span here.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
So yeah, I think that this game is 1,000% releasing this year, and I will eat those words if it doesn't happen, but I am just supremely confident that it is. Because if you are still releasing... I'll say this. If this game slips into next year and they don't by proxy cancel the PS4 version, then that's baffling to me. That's baffling to me. Because if you are still releasing a first-party game for last-gen hardware over like 2.5, 3 years after your next-gen console release, that's a problem.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
So I think this game has to come out this year, and I think it is way closer than people think. There are leaks out the wazoo about this game. I told you about them the other day. It literally just got rated in Korea. A PlayStation merch site the other day just leaked that there's like a whole bunch of Ragnarok stuff releasing in September this year. A whole bunch of new Ragnarok merch is hitting the internet and being shipped to people and sold to people this year. Anyway, rant over. We're going to play Kratos. This will be a good game for you to play before you're a dad.
It will. I have my Kratos coffee mug behind me over there. It says best dad in Midgard.
I just want to... one more thing, too. I would just like to say I don't get excited about games very much anymore, but I am so excited for this game. Like,
yeah.
Since we beat the first game, like literally I beat the last game and I said, wow, whatever the sequel to this is now my most anticipated video game. I cannot wait to see what they do with this. I really hope they deliver, and I think they will. Like, the only thing they could just make some bad story decisions, I think, is the only thing I'm concerned about. Like, that is the main concern, is that they go in some directions I'm not a huge fan of. Gameplay-wise, though, fully expect to be throwing Mjolnir around as Kratos, so, like, that'll be fun. Like, that has to happen.
He'll say Avengers Assemble, and it'll be great.
You should be able to dual-wield the Leviathan axe and Mjolnir. That would be great. That would be awesome.
You could throw them both.
There's so many ideas you could do. There's so many things you could do with this.
Absolutely.
It'd be great.
My 2 cents on Ragnarok is, yes, I do think it gets a date. I do think it's this year. I agree with you about all the timing for that stuff. I think it's happening. A big reason I think that is they are using PS4 assets to like build up. And granted, they're creating new stuff and all that, but they had a solid foundation. 2018 was a complete reboot from the ground up for the PS4. This is using that as a foundation to build up Ragnarok and then put it on PS4 and PS5. That's the same thing they did with Horizon Zero Dawn and Forbidden West and Gran Turismo. Both of those games were originally supposed to come out last year. GT and Horizon, delayed to early this year. Same thing with Ragnarok, was supposed to be, I think, end of last year. Now just delayed indefinitely.
The delay situation with that game is different, though, because what's his name? Christopher Judge said that he like couldn't do.
Yes, he was injured.
Motion capture for it and stuff like that.
All that stuff. But COVID's a part of it. I just think that naturally has pushed everything back to this year. I think it's their fall game. September, October, whatever it may be. I think September's the perfect slot for that game.
That game, the thing about that game too, sorry if you're going to make your prediction, you can release it whenever and people will buy it. Like, it doesn't have to...
It does need...
Like, people always talk about, like, big pillar fall releases. Dude, you could release that game in... What's the worst window to release a game? Late December? Like, you could release it whenever and people would go buy it in droves.
Yeah, you don't need... God of War does not need to be in the fall. I do think September is the perfect slot for it.
Yeah, I do too.
That if it was scheduled for June, I think June would be the perfect slot. Like June, September feel kind of like the lightest months now these days.
What's out in October this year? I guess just Modern Warfare, Gotham
Call
Knights,
of Duty, and
Forspoken.
Batman.
Yeah, I say Gotham Knights. Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, God of War is coming out. That was one of mine. You took it. Very smart of you.
Did you have the same window, or did you just say dates? And
I just said it's a date, but that is what the date I believe.
Do you think the date is next week at this thing they're doing? I don't. Is the thing like this isn't part of my prediction, but I don't think it is. I think they'll just do a blog post. I really do. I just think they'll say God of War Ragnarok is out on September whatever.
There are two scenarios I envision. The biggest problem is the blog post just says our third-party partners and several PSVR 2 games, which may come up here in a bit. But it could be a one more thing at the end of the state of play, just like, and one more thing. And they show another trailer for Ragnarok, and they slap a date on the end of it. That totally could happen. Or it is just about third parties and PSVR 2. But if it is a September release date, like we both believe, that date has to be announced in June. And I feel like...
Yeah, it's got to be announced super soon. Yeah, for sure.
So I would like it to be next week, but it's got to be in June if it is a September release. So hopefully. And really quick, also, they already put out a killer trailer for this game, which showed off gameplay and narrative stuff.
Yeah. This
game is in a really good spot.
I don't think people understand that, like, if I was the person making this game, I would not want to show off anything of it. Because it's just, you can't show anything of what this game is going to do or where it's going to go without spoiling the story, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's very much, I mean, it's not as hyped up in the same way as something like in-game or whatever, but like the trailers for something like that were very sparse in a lot of ways. They really played their cards close to the chest. I think Santa Monica's trying to do the same thing here. They really do not want to show much of what this game is going to have in store because it's literally Ragnarok. the whole what is it?
There's
not
a
Greek.
lot.
What is the freaking pantheon?
Norse.
Yeah, Norse. Thank you. I couldn't remember that. Yeah, the whole Norse pantheon's crashing down in this game. It's going to be insane. So
it's going to be a wild game. It's going to be so good. So
they don't want to show any of that. And there's probably very limited things that they can show. In fact, the fact that they confirmed that what's his name's even alive, I'm surprised they tipped their hand to.
Tyr.
Yeah, the fact that they confirmed Tyr's alive, I was surprised by, if I'm being honest.
Yeah,
so
same.
Yeah,
they had to do something. Anyway, my prediction is not about God of War. Since you took God of War, I feel like I need to be... Not that we're
You need to
really
take The Last of Us?
No, that was not what I was going to do. I should, to be on brand a little bit. I'm going to say Half-Life Alyx is coming to PSVR 2.
Okay.
I think Sony's able to, snuggle back up to Valve. They had a partnership for Portal 2. There were exclusive levels. Like, that relationship existed. It can come back. Heck, Shuhei Yoshida is super stoked that God of War and Horizon are playable on this the Steam Deck. It's the Vita 2 that never was. They could be all cozy, and the technical capabilities of PSVR 2 are in line with the Valve Index as far as the type of finger tracking technology and the quality of the display. It has the power. It has the capability. And Half-Life Alyx is arguably the definitive VR title to date, alongside some other ones that really capture some other VR spirit. I think you could say that for Beat Saber, or, I think probably Resident Evil 4. I haven't played it, but I think that falls in line. Anyway, Half-Life Alyx coming to PSVR 2.
Okay.
And if it is, that is at next week's event.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm really curious about that event next week. That's one of the more interesting state of plays they've had in a long time, and I can't watch it when it happens. So, I also want to add, we didn't talk about this before we started going with PlayStation. actually, we'll get into this here with my next prediction.
Do it.
We've got this State of Play next week, but that State of Play next week is not the big PlayStation event I think we're waiting for. All the rumor, I don't know how closely you follow this, but all the rumor and insider and reporter types are saying that it's seeming more likely that the big PlayStation event that we come to expect every year is probably going to happen in September. And that's what they did last year. That's where we saw Ragnarok reappear. That's where we saw Spider-Man. That's where we saw Wolverine. So they had a big September event last year. And based on what people are saying, it's seeming likely that that's going to happen again this year. So we've got the State of Play next week. So I'm kind of making predictions here with that event in mind, because I know we're not going to do predictions for that months down the road.
No, this encapsulates Keeley's summer, whatever.
Yeah, this is the whatever. Whenever these companies, I mean, Nintendo may not have a big event until July or something. Who knows?
It's quite possible.
Whenever a large event happens, that's not just smaller things they did. Yes, exactly. The Xbox thing, that's their big thing. PlayStation won't have a State of Play. They'll call it a PlayStation meeting showcase. They give it a different title. Anyway, whenever that happens, I am saying September. I think we finally get Last of Us Remake confirmed. So I think Last of Us Remake is announced at their September event. And I think the part 2 of this, and this has started to gain some traction online, and I think that this sounds really feasible because just of how you would sell the game. I think they're going to package the new factions with this. I think it'll be Last of Us Remake plus the new factions thing that they've been working on for a long time. And we've thought that they're going to be 2 individual products for a really long time, but it's just going to be a single thing. And I think it will be, the other part of it, I think it's coming out this year. I think this will be like their late fall game, like a November-ish window. I think they want this out before the HBO show drops, which is supposed to be early next year, or at least closer to that is when I think they want this out. And I think these things are ready to go. They've been working on factions for a long time. Remake was pretty well in development before it was reportedly passed off to Naughty Dog. It's just a remake, so it can't take that long to do, I wouldn't think. But
you saying that they could be bundled together totally makes sense to me. It's actually a perfect remastering remake of The Last of Us, including multiplayer with it, because it originally launched. Well, when
the reports first started coming up that like, oh, they're remaking The Last of Us, people were like, well, this game's like 7-8 years old. Why do I need to? Not even that, but the PS4 version just came out in like 2014, 2015.
It was 2014. The original was 2013.
It's not an old game. Like people don't.
It's going to be
feel
10
like
next year.
People don't feel it is, but people don't feel. I feel like a lot of people wouldn't feel compelled to go buy it again. I mean, yes, it's The Last of Us. Yes, it's one of the most popular video games ever. People would be I would more than willing to go buy the game once again myself and play a remade version of just that campaign. That's fine. But I think the way that they offset the fact that people will be put off by a remake happening so close to the release of, so close in quotes, I guess, to the original game is that they say, hey, we totally remade this factions thing that we've been promising, and it's packed in here as well, and you're going to want to check this out just for this alone.
So my question then is, as a person who loves buying physical games, this is a no-brainer. You know, they come together, they're on the disc or whatever. But factions is clearly a live sort of game. There will be microtransactions, probably battle passes or survival passes or whatever they call it. Like that will be an element in this game. That's the type of revenue and design that Sony is seeking. They just bought Bungie. All of this stuff is, and in their forecast meeting, fiscal year meeting, they talked about how that's a huge thing going forward. So does factions also launch separately, maybe digital only?
Yeah, I think it would.
For free? Do you buy it at a cheaper rate? Is it $10, $15? Or do you buy, or is it free to play and the battle passes where they make their money?
I think Sony really wants to get into live service games badly, but they also don't strike me as a
give it away for free kind of people.
Yeah, they don't strike me as a free to play company, especially for something as big as The Last of Us, which they know they can loop people into buying.
Yeah, I agree.
So I think if you do buy, I don't know, maybe they could give away extra skins or something with the physical Last of Us
maybe you get the first battle pass or
something like that. They can do something like that. But yeah, the more I think about it, the more it doesn't make sense to release these two different Last of Us related products like pretty close to one another, and then charge $60 to $70 a pop for both of them.
It actually also makes sense why Factions isn't out yet or has been shown off yet.
Yeah, why they haven't said a single word.
They're
about
like,
it. Yeah.
well, we'll pair it with the remake and do them together. I think that actually kind of at least explains why Factions has been non-existent from a public facing perspective. To kind of play off of that, I think this is a good prediction to follow that up with. I also did have a Naughty Dog one, but you've taken it. It was a bit more generic. Again, I'm just protecting myself. But I think that a major title gets a day and date launch on PC.
That would be wild. So you think they're going full Xbox?
Their PC sales were very good. Jim was just talking about how they expect that to grow, I think, to 300 million from like 70 million. You need a big game to get there. I have two thoughts on what that game could be. It could be this Factions game, or, if it is bundled with The Last of Us remake, maybe the two of them together. But if you have a live service game, you want PC players there. So I think that makes sense, which could also explain why it's been taking a little bit longer. Naughty Dog's never made a PC game before. That's got to have its own learning curves and systems to implement. Live service game, you've got to have crossplay initiated. That stuff's hard. But I don't think they do it, but I think the one that would be bonkers is Ragnarok. God of War is on PC. They have that tech and engine ready. That could happen. Will Sony do it?
I don't know if they can,
because we were just
not.
talking about how they're too cheap to like give Factions away for free. Like, I don't think they put their big God of War exclusive on PC
they're
the
also,
same day
we talked about this before we went live too, I believe, but their projections for the PS5 sales and having it surpass PS4 within the next couple of years, it basically, long story short, like, if they could meet demand right now, they are saying that demand of the PS5 is higher than demand of what the PS4 was at this same point in the PS4's life cycle. So I think you're kind of killing that. People are still going to look to buy a PS5, don't get me wrong. But I think if you do start doing day-and-date releases, I think that kills a little bit of those projections that Sony has made, which is why they wouldn't do it. It's a ballsy prediction, though.
But you have to. Ragnarok's also coming to PS4, which has like 140 million consoles anyway. Like,
it's got like 110 or 15, I think.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry.
140
PS2,
is like PS2, I think.
Yeah. PS2 had 150. I think DS was like 145. So you're right. It's creeping up there. I think PS4 is the fourth best-selling console of all time at the moment. But yeah, I think a major title gets a day-and-date launch on PC, and I think it could be Factions or Ragnarok. What is your third Sony prediction?
So this is a prediction that's going to hurt you. It's a little bit more straightforward, but...
You're going to hurt me?
I have two parts to it, and you'll understand why it's going to hurt you. I think Sly Cooper is indeed coming back. I think PlayStation's going to make a new Sly Cooper game. The part that's going to hurt you, I think they're just going to reboot it all. I think they're going to start over. They're going to soft reboot the series, and they're going to do a complete reset of Sly Cooper.
We'll never find out what happened to him and stuck in desert time Egypt land.
And I think the reason I'm predicting a reboot here is because 4 came out like a decade ago. I don't know how many people are I don't know how many people are waiting to see that game's story continue. I think it's also really I think it's really hard to, whoever makes this game is not going to be Sucker Punch. It's most likely not going to be Sucker Punch, and it's most likely not going to be Sanzaru, because Sanzaru's with Facebook or Meta or whatever bottom. Now. Yeah. So whatever studio makes this is going to be a new company. I think it's rumored to be Pixelopus.
That is exactly who is prime for this type of game.
They made the Concrete Genie game. And I think they would be a good choice. But I think it's also a tall task to pull in a developer that has not worked on this property previously. And I guess Sansari was as well. But when Sly Cooper 4 came out, it was closer to the release of 3. Like, my point now is we're so far away from Thieves in Time that to then bring aboard, like, to say, hey, Pixelopus, we want you to make Sly Cooper 5. Please go consult these other games that other studios made. Like, I think if you want to give the studio creative freedom to do what they want with a new Sly Cooper, you just say slap the reset button and let's see what you can do with it.
Actually, some Sly Cooper trivia. Sly Cooper 3 came out September of 2004, and Sly Cooper Thieves in Time came out February 2013. So it was about a 9-year, almost 10-year gap. So it's the same length of gap. The edge that Sanzaru had was that they did the PS3, and possibly Vita. I'd have to double check the Vita, but they did do the PS3 HD ports of the original trilogy. So they became intimately familiar with Sly Cooper franchise and lore and things like that, and then they use that to build Thieves in Time. Any studio coming in now is not going to have that sort of edge or learning experience with the franchise. It could still be done. I'm fine either way. The characters of Sly Cooper is what
that's
makes that series. And so, if we learn what happened to Sly in like a time travel warp thing, or we just start over and he's a thief running from a Fox cop, and Bentley and Murray,
and his friends are Bentley and Murray. I totally think that that's the core of it. Is you keep Carmelita, Bentley, Murray, and Sly all together, and then you can introduce new characters from there and do new things from that point, and maybe probably broadly keep the history of Sly as a character with, his whole family's a bunch of thieves, and then thieves Raccoonus, that type of stuff. Keep those sort of like core elements of the series intact, but then you just have like a whole new starting point, because you gotta think that like this game now, like this is a game aimed, I mean, obviously you and I are almost 30 and we sprint out to the store right away and purchase this on day one and be more than happy to play a new Sly Cooper game on PS5. But this is a game that's aimed somewhat more for younger audiences. So to make a like current Sly Cooper 5, especially when like I don't even think the other games are easily accessible at all. Like how do you make a fifth mainline entry in this series when you're not giving people easy access to 1 through 4? Like that's kind of my thought process. So I just think a full-blown reboot at this point makes more sense.
They could put it on PS Plus Premium.
Could.
It's possible. But I'm with you there. I that seems to make sense. That sort of fell in line with one of the possible predictions. A classic mascot character returns. I guess self-preservation. If I say Sly, it won't happen. If I say classic, it opens up Jack and Daxter and other things. So I won't go with that. I'm going to borrow a prediction that I wrote in my big 3 predictions for 2022. Again, I do the same thing every year. Every January, it's predictions for the big 3 for the whole year. And one of my PlayStation predictions I'm going to borrow here and say Insomniac announces a PSVR 2 game.
Okay.
They have made VR games before. Insomniac is a massive studio. They have the know-how.
They would be working on a lot of stuff then, if that's true.
Yeah,
they're making I don't know if you know they're making a multiplayer game as well, right?
I remember hearing that somewhere. I think that PSVR 2 from Insomniac makes sense. It's a studio with experience in the medium, which not a lot of like the big top first-party Sony studios have. And I think that's a valuable asset, especially when you are launching a brand new VR platform that is at the forefront of VR technology right now, consumer-wise.
Yeah.
PSVR, when it launched, was not at the forefront. It was using PS3 Move controllers and other technology. It made it cheap and accessible to consumers, which was great. But now you have a platform that is actually one of the leading VR headsets, even in some ways better than the Valve Index. And I think you want one of your best teams making a game for that. And it's quite possible that if this is true, we see it announced this week.
I'm not. This is not. Maybe you have a prediction for this, and if you do, then you don't have to say. But do you think we see that Horizon VR game that Guerrilla's working on next week?
It's not one of my predictions. Yeah, we could. That could be shown off. I know that was that was a reveal last event, big event or whatever.
Yeah, they just kind of.
It's possible. We could see the scope of that game in a way. Like, what is the gameplay there? But it could be there. The weird thing is, when we don't need to get into this, but just when PSVR 2 itself is launching, I personally think early 23. But it's just such a weird. It's a weird time, especially for them to. Now we know what the console looks like. We know what the controllers do. We have the specs. Now we're about to get a whole slate of games. Mm-hmm. So, like, where's the date? You know, there was a rumor that Resident Evil 8 is coming there. I've read GT7, Gran Turismo. What are we on? Is it 7? It's not 7, is it?
Yeah.
It is. Like, GT7 could come to PSVR. Like, all that is possible and exciting to think about, but when and where, I don't know. Who knows? That is also not one of my predictions. So, but anyway, it's possible. What are we on? Your fourth? I've lost count.
We're gonna
your fourth prediction.
We're gonna stick with the Sucker Punch train here, sort of.
Ooh.
At least in the Sucker Punch revival train. I think Infamous is really coming back too. You and I talked about this the other night, but I'm shocked that in an age where superhero media is more popular than it probably ever has been, that they don't have a bigger superhero IP of their own that they can sell. Obviously, they've got Spider-Man, but that's Spider-Man. It's Marvel. It's different. I think Infamous is a unique way for them to tap into the desire that people have for superhero storytelling in an original way. So I think Infamous is coming back. I think we're going to get a new Infamous game announced at some point. And my caveat on this one is I think Cole's involved somehow. I get that doesn't make sense, but I think he will be in it. Will he be the protagonist? I don't know. Will he be...
Cole, but in the superhero world, anything's possible.
I think he will be in the game somehow. So I'm going to go total opposite of the Sly Cooper one, where they're rebooting it. This one, I think they're going to make a pseudo-sequel to the old Infamous games.
Okay. I'm going to... My fourth pick is defensive, because I don't think there's any way you pick my fifth one. I'm so confident in the absurdity of my third pick.
I don't think you'll pick my next two, so go off.
All right. I think we see an iconic Hideo Kojima trailer for Death Stranding 2.
I forgot that's a thing. Yeah.
I think that game gets the start of the Kojima madness. That game is coming, clearly, and I think we see it. That is another possibility of a day-and-date PC game. The tech is there, the engine is there, it's Decima. I think Death Stranding 2 gets the reveal.
If I predicted that, I would add the caveat on that prediction personally that he would reveal it at Jeffrey Palooza, because him and Jeff are boys.
Yeah, him and Jeff are big buds. Yeah.
So I think that would be an easy one for Kojima to toss to his boy.
He is a second party relationship.
Yeah.
I think Sony owns Death Stranding, but Kojima is his own entity.
Pretty sure Kojima might own Death Stranding.
Big, I don't know.
505 Games literally published it on PC. Another publisher published it on PC.
Good point.
I'm pretty sure Kojima, because I'm pretty sure after the fallout of the Konami stuff, Kojima's like, yeah, I'm going to own everything I make now because of what just happened. Because he lost his baby that he'd spent 30-something years making. So yeah, Kojima Productions, I'm almost 1,000% positive owns Death Stranding.
I'll look that up while you tell me your fifth PlayStation prediction.
One of these is very bland, and I don't really care about it, if I'm being honest, and it feels just kind of a foregone conclusion at this point. The other one, though, is funny because of what you predicted earlier. So would you like me to do that one instead? But this isn't very exciting, but it's just kind of funny.
Humor or excitement?
The other one's really not that exciting. I'll do the
humor.
I'll do the humor one because this will directly put two of our predictions at odds with one another.
Battle.
I think the Avatar game gets revealed at a PlayStation event, potentially the one this coming week. I think that could be where we see it is next week. I think Final Fantasy is a game that could make sense to appear, and I think this is another one. Because if this game's coming out this year, we talk about games that are coming out this year that we haven't seen anything of. We haven't seen literally anything of this other than like a teaser trailer for it. People are freaking out about God of War over here, and this game's still coming out in 2022, and we literally know nothing about it. So, yeah, I think we see this Avatar video game. I think we'll see people jumping onto some aminals and hooking up their tails to the animals.
Ponytail connections.
Yeah. My other one, I'll throw my other one out there unless you, well, go ahead.
I'll say mine. Really quick, real-time follow-up. Sony owns Death Stranding.
Do they really? Are you sure?
The trademark filings and all that stuff, based off a few websites I went around, Sony owns it.
I don't understand how another developer would publish it. I mean, Sony self-publishes its games on PC. How is 505 Games publishing that on PC if that literally doesn't make any sense?
It could have been a part of the deal early on. This was before the PC initiative stuff, like full blast from Sony. I'm not sure, but the few websites I went around to claim that the trademark and IP belong to Sony.
I don't know if that's true. I'm disputing this.
That may not, but that is what I was able to look up. My fifth and final prediction for PlayStation is absolute absurdity.
Go for it.
Sony announces local PS3 emulation on PS5.
You think in the wake of this PS Plus Premium rollout that they're going to do that?
I think, well, to be fair, there's local PS1, PS2, and PSP emulation on PS5. It's not good emulation, but it's there. At least initial reports are indicating it's not very good. But I think PS3 emulation seems to be in a fairly decent state on PC. Over the past few months, I've been watching some videos from Digital Foundry and kind of looking into it a little bit. It seems to be more stable than I originally anticipated. And this has been a problem that Sony has been aware of essentially since the start of the PS3. Like, they've clearly had the time to try and crack it. And if the community can crack it, Sony can crack it. Have they put the money and effort into it is a different question, and I'm not sure. But I think the reason the PS Now library is so much smaller, I think all of this is because they're getting ready to allow local emulation. Now, I don't think that means you pop. It'd be great if they took the Xbox route and you could put your PS3 disc in and it emulates, just like you did with PS2 games and PS1 games on the PS3. But I think they are not saying anything because they want this to be a pop-off kind of surprise, which would be a really good surprise. And so I think that we get local downloadable PS3 games on PS5.
I think you're fantasizing about a version of Sony that doesn't currently exist.
It's quite possible.
Like everything we've seen from them
to make.
It would be the right move to make, but everything we have seen from Sony over the past 18 months has been truly, maybe even longer, has been bad calls when it comes to these consumer friendly things that should just be a foregone conclusion. It's a good prediction. I'll keep crossing my fingers and hope it's true. Save Metal Gear Solid 4.
One. Save it.
My other prediction, for the record, I was just going to predict Silent Hill, but that's again. But we've had so many leaks with that. I feel like it's just okay, when is this being revealed?
Is Blue Box working on that one, right?
Shut up, no.
Oh, I'm surprised neither one of us predicted Abandon showing up on stage.
No, those guys are total hacks. They really are. All right.
Well, with the hack energy, let's go to Nintendo. What is your first prediction for the Big N?
I'm going to just again start with probably the thing we're thinking of the most with this company, which is Breath of the Wild. I'll give a two-parter for this. And it's actually a very funny two-parter. I think the next time Breath of the Wild appears, potentially at the Direct this month or whenever, I think we'll finally see actual gameplay from Breath of the Wild 2. The secondary caveat I will add to this, though, is that they will still not give us the game's real title.
Dang it!
So
I won't write this, but my prediction directly counters that. I think it does get a proper name, but no date or gameplay.
I think based on what they said last year about if we told you the title, we would spoil the game. I think they'll be fine with showing gameplay, but I don't think they want to spoil the surprises or whatever yet. So they'll just keep going with this because they know everybody's just calling it Breath of the Wild 2 and they don't care. Again, this game will sell itself and they can come out with a real title later on. But that's probably a terrible prediction because I do think that this game does need a title. It's getting kind of absurd, but I'm going to say that they continue to hold out to keep the secrets going.
Alrighty.
And we'll just have to keep calling it the untitled sequel to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild until then.
What if they adopt a Octopath Traveler mentality and that becomes the name of the game?
That becomes the official name of the game. That'd be great. I'd be fine with that.
My first prediction, I'm going to swoop in here. I think this one's on your list.
Okay.
Bayonetta 3 release date revealed. It is October 28th, 2022. I've chosen this date because the first Bayonetta came out on October 29th. October 28th is a Friday. 29th is a Saturday. And Bayonetta 2 was a mid-September release. So the fall is kind of the Bayonetta time slot traditionally. Nintendo's big game in September is Splatoon 3. They need an October game currently because Pokemon is November, presumably. So I think Bayonetta 3 is October 28th, 2022.
All right, I'm just going to give mine right now. Bayonetta 3 will get delayed to 2023.
No, that game.
I think
Platinum has been so firm.
Dude, I think that Babylon's Fall is going to cause Platinum Games to take a look within themselves and be like, okay, we can't do this again. We have to make sure that this game is ready to go. And I think it'll slip to early next year. I think it'll slip to early next year, maybe even like a January or February type game. But I think that this game gets delayed.
Bayo's out this year for sure. Okay. So that...
And I don't know if... I got to add the caveat. I don't know if they'll announce that in a direct, but that is a
if it's a delay, that won't be in a direct.
Yeah, that is a thing that I think will happen, though, is that it will slip to next year.
All right. So that was your second prediction?
Yeah, that was...
Or you just wanted to say that because
No, that was my second... That was my second prediction.
All right. I'll go for some low-hanging fruit here, but I think this is pretty likely. I think the next DLC pack for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is out today.
Shadow dropping.
Yep. You got to have one shadow drop prediction for E3.
You do.
There's so many courses and tracks for that game that are supposed to come out over the next year and a half. I think the next one could easily drop during the Direct.
That'd be good. That makes sense. Especially because people are wondering where the heck they're going to announce those new maps and release them.
Mm-hmm. So, your number 3, sir?
Based on how this went last year in their Direct when they did this, I think that Mr. Shigeru Miyamoto himself will once again appear. And I will think that he will show the first trailer for the Mario Bros. Movie in this summer Direct that they hold. I think we're going to finally see it this summer. This movie's less than a year out from releasing. We got to start seeing something. They announced this cast list like close to a year ago. I want to say like 10 months ago. And that blew up. Like, clearly they want to promote this movie via directs, I think. So, just makes sense.
I like it.
I think they'll show the first trailer for the Mario movie in their big summer direct here blow up.
I love the energy.
Jack Black is Bowser.
So
Seth Rogen is Donkey Kong.
All right. For my third prediction, I say that Game Boy games and systems are announced for NSO.
Oh, yeah. I forgot that leaked. Yeah, that's a good one.
I think that finally shows up, and I think if I were to be super specific and really curse myself, Mother 3 comes to it, but only in Japan.
That would be truly incredible. I would love that so much. I mean, people could technically hack, and they could they could create Japanese Switch Online services. I have a Japanese
account that leeches off of my American NSO.
Yeah, they could do it.
I think I could see that happening. But yeah, Game Boy games coming to NSO, I think is happening.
Okay.
Your number 4, sir.
This is a prediction last year that I think one of us made, but I will make it now. But I'm going to be less specific as I make it. A new Donkey Kong game is finally happening, and they will announce it. I don't know if it's 2D or 3D, though. Again, I'm just going to be very broad and just say new Donkey Kong. Because I know last year there was a lot of rumors about it being a 3D game. And since then, I think there's been other people saying, no, it's not a 3D game. It's just going to be another 2D game. But I think we will. It does seem time for a new one of those. And there's been a lot of rumors going around about that happening. So
you took my prediction.
Sorry.
You're fine. I do think Donkey Kong is coming back. And I also was less specific. I said just a new Donkey Kong game. So maybe it's a sequel to Barrel Blast that we've all been waiting for.
Donkey Konga 2. It's Reggie's favorite game.
I think Scott the Woz would really appreciate Donkey Kong Barrel Blast 2. All right. Well, I'm going to take this next super hopeful, maybe not obvious, but hopeful one. But I feel like you could take the other one too. Got to go with the strategic player. Silksong actually shows up.
Okay. I didn't have that.
It was shown off at E3. These indie directs are too small for Silksong. Silksong is a big stage game. It's not an indie world direct. It's a big boy stage game. So I think Silksong is in the direct and is shown off.
Think that'll happen?
I think that one's pretty straightforward, pretty simple.
I think that actually will happen. I think that we're nearing the time to see more of that. Okay, my last one. We're going to end on what I like to call an anti-prediction.
A classic, a Logan staple.
Fans around the world will weep as once again Metroid Prime 4 will not appear. Nintendo will not mention it at all.
My fifth prediction, Metroid Prime 4 has a trailer.
I mean, we can go at odds with each other on that one. I think that's fine.
We can duel at the end. I
think the fact that Retro keeps putting out job listings though, and they're like, "Hello, come help us make this game." I'm like, "Dear God, this game is never gonna come out."
You're not wrong. I think they would want a trailer though because of how successful Metroid Dread was last year. It was nominated for Game of the Year at the Game Awards. Like, that's the best Metroid's ever done commercially. I think they want a trailer to keep that momentum going a little bit. So I guess that's it. That's how we rounded out this fine year. One more year in the bag. E3 predictions.
I'm sorry. One final question for you. Who are you most excited about right now? I would say I'm most excited for PlayStation because I feel like they have the most like surprise potential. Like, I feel like there's a lot of things that they're working on that we don't really... to be honest, I mean, that's not necessarily true because we know Naughty Dog's doing Last of Us remake. We know Ghost of Tsushima 2 is a thing. Like, we know certain games that are lined up and should be coming out. Nintendo, I feel like, has shown a lot of its hand. And I don't really know.
This year's pretty well mapped out.
Yeah. So Nintendo was a little harder for me to put together this year, if I'm being honest. And even
but also,
into next year.
Nintendo's in their 5th year of the console.
Yeah.
So their stride is pretty well set. Personally, this is something I sort of always struggle with. I'm a Sony pony, saddling up, riding into the sunset. God of War, more Last of Us. I'm here for it. I'm all about it. But at the end of the day, if Nintendo shows off Zelda and Metroid, that's what's going to be the most hype for me no matter what. And so Nintendo always feels like they have the potential to truly surprise. I think truly, truly surprise. For all we know, we could get Super Mario Odyssey 2 out of the blue. Like, where is that game? So I feel like Nintendo always has the highest potential, but they also can hit the lowest lows. And so Nintendo is where I must answer.
Yeah, I mean, I usually think Nintendo is one of the ones I'm most excited about. But yeah, like you said, they've got a lot of like their next like 18 months pretty well mapped out. Like even outside of some of the things we talked about, like you got Strikers within the next month. You've got Xenoblade over the summer. You've got Pokemon later this year. You've got Breath of the Wild 3 next year. You've got there's something else I was thinking of that's coming up soon. I mean, even all the Mario Kart packs. I feel like all the Mario Kart DLC packs have kind of ruined, or not necessarily ruined, but like it's taken a shot at the whole mystery around like, oh, will they do Mario Kart 9? Is Mario Kart 9 going to be a thing? And now that's like something we know it's not coming up, like I feel like there's like less mystery and excitement around them than there has been a while. That doesn't mean that they're not putting out good games still, but it's just like kind of know what they're doing for the most part. Mario and Rabbids was the other thing I was thinking of. That's due to come out at some point. Yeah. So, and Xbox has just got to release games. They just got to show things off, and they just got to release them.
Yeah. It's going to be a good summer. Always is. The highs, the lows. It's always fun. Thank you for once again joining me for this annual tradition at this point, going on probably 8 years strong now. So
for sure.
It's always, predictions are just part of the E3 fun. So thank you for joining me, Logan. For you fine listeners, you can find Logan on Twitter at moreman12, and he's writing over at comicbook.com. And then you can follow me on Twitter at maxroberts143 and my writing over at maxfrequency.net. Logan and I also host a seasonal podcast called Chapter Select. It's currently in season 3E, which is all about Banjo-Kazooie. And you better believe if a Banjo-Kazooie game is announced, we will eventually play it for that season. Right now, that season is in full swing. This upcoming week on June 1st, the Nuts and Bolts episode is dropping. So if you would like to listen to that, you can find it wherever you listen to podcasts under the name Chapter Select. But thank you all so much for listening to this episode of the Max Frequency Podcast. And until next time, adios.